All right, we are recording. So, in a continued effort to let everybody know about stuff that we're doing with Meds Cafe, whether it be with products or historical perspective or advocacy work or all these different things, we have David Rudoi, and the bonus here is that with this one guest, we could probably cover a lot of different things that we normally do because not only does David have a history of being a really active and conscientious advocate, activist, and lawyer in the cannabis world, the last decade plus probably. He also is a primary with Terple Gang, which is a very favorite product of ours at the stores, and so we have some decent ground to cover, and it's also just kind of a cool ability to look back on a few things. Josh Covert's the CEO here at Meds, and you and Josh have done some great legal work together over the years. You and I have crossed paths many times with the MI legalized stuff, just helping to help people with their journey in cannabis and or protect people or whatever the circumstances are. There's been a lot of different things over the years. And now you got Terple Gang. I first became aware of Terple Gang when I was asked to be a judge at an event last summer in I forgot what town it was in now, Southwest Michigan, the GOAT event. And there was like two judging scenarios. One was a group to get the samples down to a smaller number. And then the other one was a group of like celebrities like Cheech Marin and Burner. And I don't remember everybody who was involved, but a few people like that. And then they were doing a live judging on stage. So when we got where I was in the preliminary group during this process, and we finally got the samples that came in. Unfortunately, most of them just were not all that great. I mean, they were usable cannabis on some level, but nothing that stands out for a contest anyway. But there was one that everybody kind of went, "Oh yeah, that one's pretty good. Okay, this makes it kind of easy in this field of subpar stuff to have something that was really good stand out." And that turned out to be a Terple Gang. I forgot actually which one it was. I think it was like purple.
Super Boof.
There you go, Super Boof. And it was awesome, and it went on to win, and that was kind of expected based on my preliminary experience with it. And then I think I subsequently found out that you were involved and thought it was even cooler. And then, of course, later on, I came into Meds, and it's like a really popular product there. So just another good story. And so to talk a little bit about the product, our history here, some information like that for people, I think would be really interesting. But please, introduce yourself a little bit more than I just did, and let us know what's going on.
Sure. So I'm Dave Rudoi. I've been a cannabis attorney working in the area of defending people from the government trying to lock them in cages for cannabis related crimes since 2011. Obviously, although I made a lot of money defending people for cannabis, I didn't want to have to defend people for cannabis use or production of cannabis. When somebody produces good cannabis and would sell it to me, I wouldn't say fuck you. I would say thank you for giving me this present, this great product. And so, that's where me and Jamie first really became friends, was in the fight to legalize cannabis here in the state of Michigan. And the fight's not over. We still need to finish the rest of the country. But that's kind of where I started. So my roots were always trying to protect users and caregivers, because we've had medical marijuana in the state of Michigan since really effectively 2009, although it was passed in 2008. And protect the people producing the marijuana in Michigan and protect the, especially the high grade stuff. Because kind of prior to the Caregiver Act, there were a few people growing good cannabis in Michigan, but a lot of it was trash, not healthy marijuana, moldy, coming from, other states as well as Canada. So became a board member eventually of MI Legalize and put as much time and effort as possible into legalizing it. Once it was legalized, a group of my closest friends in the world wanted to start growing the goal is the best cannabis in Michigan, and offering the highest quality. With that being said, the public is very interested in THC levels, but I personally and the rest of my team believe that the best cannabis, as far as like healing properties of the plant and the effects of the plant, it's not THC. THC is a piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole puzzle. But the focus is on flavonoids and terpenes and sort of the entourage effect of cannabis. Some of my favorite cannabis strains are strains that are below 20% THC, but because of the terpene profile and flavonoid profile, produce the better effects for me. For me, I also am a medical marijuana patient as well. I would say I use cannabis recreationally and medically, depending on whether I have medical need or not. But so that's why we came up with the Terple Gang, which is our goal is clean products with the best terpene profiles, to produce the highest quality cannabis in Michigan and put that at an affordable price. So we're not trying to take people to the cleaners just because our product is superior. We're trying to produce an affordable product so that it can be people's kind of main thing that they use, that they consume, especially in the realm of flower cannabis. I personally believe flower cannabis is the best form of cannabis, because no matter what they do, they can never recreate nature. So when they're extracting it, there's some of the chemicals found in the plant that have positive qualities that are going to be lost. So the group that I'm with, a lot of them were doing this kind of pre-prohibition era. So they've been developing and honing their skills for a number of years. I won't say on record how long, so I don't incriminate anybody. But I'd like to believe we're kind of, with the exception of me, who I've never grown any cannabis myself, are essentially OGs in the game. And I think we're doing a great job producing some of the best cannabis. But with that being said, we are always trying to improve, and also want to continue this fight, for expungement, clearing people's records. And, what MI Legalized did in the legalization of cannabis was a huge step in the right direction, but there's still a lot of work to be done. From an advocacy perspective, there are still, although it went from me having 50 of the files behind me being for cannabis related crimes to maybe 1 or 2 at a time for cannabis related crimes, I still would like to see not that 1 or 2. So we still have some work to do in cleaning up these laws, but I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. Jamie, you're muted.
Perfect. I always like to screw up at least once or twice during one of these. I think that you covered a lot of really good ground in there. I like not having the focus on the TA. I can't stand it. I understand that's embedded into a lot of people's psyche. It's what I call ad populum, which is, in logic, it would refer to the masses believing something that's not necessarily true. And then all the issues that have to, be sorted out through that kind of a thing. And I really don't like it when somebody is explaining their product and they get all excited about how they have this stuff for 25% and then it costs a lot more because of that. And it's just this ignorance, that is really frustrating. So I'm really happy that is your perspective. And just
with that being said, I just want to note this for the record. We do have very high THC cannabis strains, but I don't think that's why shouldn't be the only reason that you prefer our cannabis. Like the one I have on my desk right now is 28% THC rocket fuel, but the 28% is not why it's my favorite strain we grow. It's because of the entourage effects and the 3% terpenes that are in the strain. So
3% is a really good number. And if you start seeing that kind of stuff, the essence is going to be pronounced. And the qualities that we really try to find in there.
Exactly.
Will be more prevalent. Yeah, the THC number just simply, it doesn't matter if that was 9% or 30%. It doesn't mean you get higher or less high. It's, as you said, all the components working synergistically. And I kind of gotten away from using the entourage word, not to get too nitpicky about it, but Dr. Lester Grinspoon, who passed away a couple of years ago, used to use the term ensemble. And I just think that's a little bit more fitting, because it's not like the THC is the star and it has all these supporting cast members around. It's everything just working together. And that's what really produces the effect. THC's got to be in there to do some stuff, but it just needs to be around. It doesn't have to be in this particular composition. It doesn't have to be 25% to do anything special, So it's just it's
I
kind
like ensemble over entourage. I think they both get to the main goal, which is there's a lot of other important stuff going on. But I like
totally
the ensemble, where I think that's the right way to think about it.
Yeah.
I think the only real like benefit of the higher THC, like having strains that also have higher THC, is there is something to medical benefits from THC itself. And so when you are looking for the THC based benefits, when there's a higher THC content, it does allow you to need less per dose.
Everybody's different. And sometimes they find out that having higher THC is one of the components necessary to handle whatever they're, trying to utilize cannabis for.
And they don't need higher THC. They just might need to smoke. Like if it's only 15%, maybe your dose is a gram. And if it's 30%, maybe your dose is a half a gram.
Right.
So I do think there's still some benefits to having higher THC, but it's not the only, I think it's a piece of the puzzle in finding the right strain for you. Sure. Like if you had it that was only 2% THC, it might not produce your desired effect unless you smoked a whole ounce or something like that,
Maybe. So. Might be perfect for another person.
Exactly. Yeah. One of my partners, his favorite strain we ever grew was one that was like 12% THC, 12% CBD, and it's his absolute favorite desired effect. Unfortunately, the public didn't agree.
Right.
So we're not growing that strain anymore.
Probably a niche market, and that's the other kind of difficult thing. The THC stuff, the stuff that has a shorter cycle to become mature and ready to use. I mean, commercially, those things, and higher yields, commercially, those things become the more desired thing because of logistics and money and all that kind of stuff. And there's really good cannabis and, sometimes there too, but there's a lot of options that get kind of left out of that whole system. And one of the reasons why I think the caregiver system really needs to stay strong. And when you say we have more work to do, I think kind of stopping people from trying to attack it on one hand and not allowing it to, other than natural course of things, not allow it to be, affected by big money interests that think it's a competition or, something like that. So the caregivers will grow certain things that aren't necessarily as commercially advantageous, and having that stuff around, I think, is important for a lot of people.
I think it's extremely important to protect the caregiver system here in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And that's something our company's from Caregiver Roots. And the idea, there's some other companies out there that are from Caregiver Roots, and now that they're commercial, they're, working to over-regulate caregivers and bring plant counts down and all that sort of stuff, which is just crazy to me, that people that are profiting off cannabis are trying to do that because it's cutting into their profit margin, when that's what built Michigan's industry in the first place.
Absolutely.
We would be, a decade back without the caregiver system, and the quality of the cannabis, everything. So I think you made a really, really good point with, there are certain things that are just not commercially viable for us to grow, because just nobody would buy it. Or very few people would buy it. So it's just not commercially viable, that caregivers can do. And that's important, like preserving the medical system. Unfortunately, it's looking like the commercial market medical will die within the commercial market in the next few years, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it should. I mean, the commercial medical program is not a very good program. it's called medical. So some people have a concern about it kind of going away, but the licenses probably should be combined, and it should be easier and less expensive for participation, in the commercial world, and the companies that still pay attention to and offer good information and guidance, and take somebody down the road that's looking for health and wellness, or benefits, or to like help with a particular condition, is a great idea. I know at Meds Cafe, regardless of whether or not there's a specific medical program or we're using a medical license in an area, we still have that ability to help people out with those questions, and to match people up with certain types or forms or delivery systems, whatever however sensitive the person is, and help them down that road to figure out what those things are that could be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think most people use cannabis for medical purposes, whether they call it that or not.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid, since it affects your endocannabinoid system. So
yeah, I mean, I just think most people, the reason that they're using it is to gain a medical benefit, to some degree, whether it's anxiety relief, whether it's help with sleep, whether it's help with hunger issues and
ADHD.
Yep. ADHD, they just, because of the commercial availability of rec, many people don't feel that want to have to go to the doctor and continue to pay and get a card and be in a system. They would rather just go to the stores and buy it. But for the people that really need the specialized medicine, and then there are, I don't want to take it away, there are companies even in the rec market that really do still focus on medical benefits. And I'd like to think we're one of those.
Sure.
When we do like our vendor days and we go to a place, we're always breaking out the terpene charts and discussing what terpenes produce different effects. We are one of, we actually list the terpenes on our metric data. So customers have an availability to check out what the terpene profile looks like to some degree, and try to find the strains that are going to best serve their needs. There's certain terpenes that are great for causing hunger, and there's certain terpenes that are great for eliminating hunger.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, everybody's got different needs and different ways that they want to use it, and that's really what the Terple Gang is about, is trying to focus on creating strains that are good for people.
Right. That's really cool, and I'm really happy that you and your group have entered the fray with that philosophy. That's needed in this world, and the more of that, the better. And we've gone on for a little while now, so I kind of want to wrap up. Of course, we'll revisit and update on things like that. But anything in the legal world, anything in your company's product world, just stuff you want to make sure you get in here before we kind of wrap it up.
So in the legal world, I think one thing that I think it's important for people to know about is, for a couple of years here, there have been essentially very little enforcement on traditional market cannabis for the last couple of years, due to lobbying by some of the, I believe, multi-state operators. There's a list out there of the people lobbying for this. I won't get involved with who should be on that list and who shouldn't be. But due to a lot of lobbying, there was a marijuana and tobacco investigation unit formed of the state police that are out there busting traditional market activities currently. And enforcement is going up. As a criminal defense attorney, I'm seeing it directly on the front lines. So I think it's something people really need to be aware of out there. I think a lot of people thought, it's legal and I don't have to worry about it. They are trying to turn you into a felon again. At least there's some forces out there trying to turn you into a felon again. So be aware. From our company perspective, the Terple Gang, we have a couple new products coming soon. That one of the places you'll be able to find them is at Meds Cafe. But we have been working very hard on product development and creating 2 new products that are going to be the best infused pre-rolls on the cannabis market. I can say that with confidence. They're going to be at a reasonable price compared to a lot of these other infused pre-rolls. I think the price point is going to be lower, and it's going to offer extremely high terpene content, and it's not added terpenes from organic BS sources, that aren't the cannabis itself. So it's all coming from the cannabis itself. And they are, I can say with confidence, the best product on the market in that area. And we also are going to be coming out with a line of similarly infused flower, not just infusing it with distillate that's going to up the THC percentage, but infusing it with live rosin, both the joints and the cannabis, live rosin and kief, all naturally coming from the cannabis plant, but just infusing it. So you need less product to get to the same desired effect.
Right on. So just for a record, I would sacrifice myself a little bit for research and development on those products if ever needed. Feel free to call on me.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, I will call on you, brother.
So, I'll just want to reiterate something you said to wrap up. You talked about the need for more improvements and that type of stuff, and something that I've been working on for a long time and that you have helped me with over the years is trying to get our own controlled substances list to remove cannabis off of it, particularly as the Schedule 1 and illogically a Schedule 2 when it's pharmaceutical grade, which is really stupid. And that would help out with some of these enforcement issues, I think. We're also trying to stop like a lot of funding from the MRTMA generated revenue to go to police to bust people outside of the commercial, system. So we're working on all those things.
It's the most important next step.
Yeah.
Is we have to, because unfortunately, when we worked our hardest drafting the MRTMA, I worked very hard on it. I tried to look for holes, but then it passes, and
it's up for interpretation. Then, yeah,
and for example, Section 4 of the MRTMA lists things that you are not allowed to do under the MRTMA. For example, growing outside, not in a locked and enclosed area. And Section 15, which is
reasonably secure.
Exactly. But Section 15, when it lists exclusive penalties, it says except for violations of Section 4. And so now what the prosecutors are trying to argue is like if you grew 2 plants outside, not in a secured area by the definition, that you're not in the subject of Section 15 of the MRTMA anymore. You're back in the public health code, which means you're essentially a felon manufacturing your 2 plants of marijuana, even though everybody's allowed to grow 12, because you didn't have a proper fence around it. And I just had a case on this. Where that's what the prosecutor's argument is. So the way that we can stop all of those issues is real simple. We need to get it off the controlled substances list.
And it's been tried through the courts, and there's been a lot of resistance. There was a good, Michael Comorn and Cannabis Council had John Sinclair and Josie and others as plaintiffs to take this through. It got kicked based on technical grounds, but the argument was still really sound and agreed to by the Attorney General.
Unfortunately, I think we can't rely on the courts to win this one. It's just my feeling.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. We need to do this through legislatively. And I had a meeting with Senator Irwin's office yesterday and tried to revive this discussion. And they seem interested, but it's a different climate in the legislature right now. So we'll have to see what we can do. I'm not expecting a lot of horrible stuff, but I don't know how much in advancements we're going to be able to make this session either.
I think we got to go back to the old. Unfortunately, it was so much work. And when we finally legalized cannabis, I was like, I don't have to campaign anymore for a ballot initiative. But unfortunately, I think we got to do a ballot initiative. We wanted to include it in our ballot initiative, but because of some rules about ballot initiatives, we didn't want to expand the scope of the MRTMA too far. Because people thought it might strike down the whole thing. I disagreed with those people, but I lost that voting battle. And so now we got to do another one. I really think that's the way we got to get there.
Well, that's interesting. And that's something that we can give an update on at a future interview. But I really appreciate you coming on for a few minutes. We went over our normal time, but it was interesting enough that I'm sure that'll definitely be okay. And we'll look forward to doing this again. thanks for your inclusion in this whole space for so many years, and thanks for getting involved in the business and producing a great product with the right philosophy.
Well, thank you. And thanks to Meds Cafe in general for being, just one thing I would say is Meds Cafe has always been focused on companies like ours. And I think Meds Cafe is one of the premier chains, that are locally owned and doing it the right way in the state of Michigan. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Right on, man. Thank you very much. And we'll definitely catch up later. Thanks a lot, Dave. Talk to you soon.
See ya.